Sometimes it makes sense to create new media when you bring your assets into Premiere. Sometimes your original media's resolution is so large or its codec is so complex that your system performance might suffer. You could be running sluggish or dropping frames, which is definitely not good for the creative process. So in that case, you may want to transcode your media. And by transcoding the media, you're encoding your existing media to a more optimal editing format, which results in better performance during the editing process. So to transcode your media, you head over to the media browser. And if you're not familiar with the media browser, please watch the previous video to get up to speed. But I'm going to select the media browser, and then I'm going to press tilde to maximize, so we have a bigger window to look at. And the transcoding options are right here, ingest and this little wrench. So if I check ingest, and then I click on this wrench, you can see that there are 4 options within here: copy, transcode, create proxies, and copy and create proxies. In this video, we're going to concentrate on these 2, transcode and create proxies. Let's first take a look at transcode, which is going to change my media into a more optimal editing format. So if I select transcode, I can come to preset, and here are some of those optimal editing formats. A very popular one is Apple ProRes 422, so I'll select that. And then under there, I have primary destination, and this is just where those transcoded files are going to go. Same as project, so it's going to go in the same folder that my project is in. I can leave that checked. All right, so I've set my ingest settings. I'll say OK. And now I just need to navigate to the files that I want to import. I do have a folder of high-res media here. You do not have this, but if you want to follow along, you can just do so with your own media. So here are my high-res files. I can bring in the entire file, or I can actually also set in and out points when I transcode. This is something you can't do when you just do a traditional import. So I can set an in by pressing I and an out by pressing O, and I can do that for any clip that I like, but I'll just bring this one in, and then I'm going to command click or control click on a PC, my clips that I would like to bring in, like so. And now when I import this, because I have my ingest setting checked, and because I've set my ingest settings, it's going to perform the transcode. So I'll right click and choose import. And then you can see that I automatically get these files in my project panel. Now, they aren't transcoded yet. If I was to reveal in Finder, so I'm going to right-click and choose Reveal in Finder, you can see that it's still pointing to my high-res media, okay? The transcode takes some time. What's happening in the background is Premiere Pro's sister program, Adobe Media Encoder, is handling the transcode. So if I go over to Media Encoder, you can actually see that it's done. You can see the status is done. So it's pretty quick. If I go back over to Premiere now, and I do that same reveal file, I'm going to right-click and choose Reveal in Finder. Now it's no longer pointing to the Capquin B-roll, the high-res media. Rather, it's pointing to my project folder, and then here is my newly transcoded media. Now again, transcoded media is optimized for editing, so it'll be great for my overall system performance. I can continue working with this media throughout the editing process, and depending on how I'm delivering the program, I could leave it at this new transcoded codec. If I was just exporting a web video, it would probably be fine. Apple ProRes 422 is high enough quality for that. Or if it's very important to get back to my original high-res media, that's fine too. I can just unlink the current media and relink it to the original high-res files. Let me show you how to do that. So I'm just going to select all of these files, right-click, and choose Make Offline. And media files remain on disk, yes. All right, and now to link this back to the high-res media, I'm just going to select them, right-click, and choose Link Media. All right, and I just want to make sure that this is selected, relink others automatically. So once I find this one, it's going to find all the rest. So I'll locate. And I know that's in this high-res Capquin B-roll folder. All right, so it's looking for this one right here, Town. I'm going to select it and say OK. All right, and now all of my files are relinked to the original media. If I right-click and choose Reveal in Finder, you can see that it once again is pointing to the high-res files inside of my Capquin B-roll folder. All right, so transcoding is a pretty simple process, and it gives you those optimized files for editing. Now let's talk about creating proxies. I'm going to go back to the media browser, and let's talk about what creating proxies is. A proxy file is a very low-resolution copy of the media that I can edit with. It takes up very little space on my drive, and my system handles it very well because the media files are so small. And in pretty much every case, the proxy workflow means that you're only going to use the proxy media during the editing process. You will always link it back to your high-res files at the end since it is so low-res. So I'm going to, again, make sure that ingest is checked. I'm going to come into my wrench, and then instead of transcode, I'm going to choose Create Proxies. I then choose a proxy format under Preset, all right? I'll choose 1024 by 540 Apple ProRes 422 proxy, okay? And then you also choose a proxy destination. So where do you want your proxies to go? I'm okay with them going in the same place as my project. Okay, so I have set my ingest settings. I'll say okay. And before I bring in my proxy media, I'm just going to go back to my project panel and set a few things up. I'm going to right-click up here on the header and choose Metadata Display. And then I'm going to twirl down Premiere Pro Project Metadata. And I want to display proxy path, file path here, and also proxy, okay? These two settings are really useful when you are working with proxies. I'll say okay. And they're probably down here. Okay, so I'm going to bring proxy all the way to the left, and I'll bring proxy media file path down all the way to the left as well. Okay, now I'll head back to my media browser, and I'll bring in Swan, and I'll command click over here on flowers. Okay, so I'll bring these two in. Again, I've set up my ingest settings so that it's going to bring in my proxy files. I'm going to right click and choose import. Now, back over here, you can see that it's offline under proxy until Adobe Media Encoder creates my proxy file. Now you can see that that one is attached, and now that one is attached. So let me go ahead and show you how you toggle back and forth between your full-res media and your proxies. I'm going to press tilde to minimize my project panel. And then I'm going to just bring both of these into a very quick sequence. So I'm going to click and then command click on this file and then drag it over to the timeline. And I'm just going to rename this proxy test. Okay. And there's a button that you want to display to toggle back and forth between your full res media and your proxies. I'm going to come over to this little plus sign down here, the button editor. And it's this command right here, toggle proxies. I'm going to just bring this down to my button panel and release and say okay. And now I'm going to click on toggle proxies. And right now I'm looking at the proxy media. You can tell because the aspect ratio is a little different and I get this pillar boxing on the left and the right. And now I'm looking at the full-size media, okay? So if I'm out in the field and I have a laptop and I just want to work with my proxies, I'll go ahead and toggle the proxies on, work with it. And then all I need to do is toggle it again, and now it's linked back to my full-res media. All right? I'm going to, again, just clean up my project panel for the rest of this chapter. I'm just going to select this first clip, press Command-A or Control-A on a PC, and select them all, and then I'm just going to press Delete, and now I have an empty project panel again. One last thing I'm going to do is go back over to Media Browser and just uncheck Ingest. Otherwise, all the media that I bring in will be transcoded into proxies, which is probably not what I want. All right, so this was just a quick glance at some parts of the transcoding and proxy creation process. To learn much more, check out the Premiere Pro Guru courses, Transcoding Workflows and Offline and Online Workflows.